Balloon over the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Dave Candito.
And of course, we're back with more Mortal Kombat because
what else will we talk about?
There's still so much more to talk about, but we decided to get a little quick podcast in, and we're like, well, you know what's quick and fun and easy? The old Mortal Kombat. I'm trying to get so it doesn't glare. Mortal Kombat, the animated video. The journey begins. Realistically, it's actually the first Mortal Kombat, I guess you could say, movie, though. This thing's like 40 minutes long, so I don't know if you can consider it a movie. But and this is my original one that I got from my local video store, Video Scene in Twain Harte. And I couldn't get the VHS back in there, and I was like, wait a second. Here's the receipt. I still got it. That's badass. So, yeah, this is one of those ones, like, I get really excited whenever I find VHSs that come from literally Video Scene in Twain Harte, you know, because every once in a while you go through a box and you'll see them in there, and it always takes me back anyway.
I was going to say, that's one of those things. It's kind of like, in Arnold, it's the same thing. I don't know. There's got to be videos, DVDs, games floating around that town. I hope so anyway. I really hope so, that in somebody's basement or attic or somewhere, there's a some sort of media from a place that used to be called Fat Cats Video. And I'm sure that you may have seen it while it was open years and years ago, but you probably like went past and didn't realize. But it was a small video store. Gosh, it was there. It was there before I moved there in 2001. And I think he finally sold or just stopped his business. His name was Nate. Mm-hmm. He stopped his business in like, gosh, I want to say like 2005, 2006. And then eventually the next thing that was there, you probably remember this, was Geeks Paradise, the video game store and gaming hub. That was really cool until they sold it to another guy who ruined it. But yeah, those small town video stores are, oh man, I miss them. That's for sure. There was actually a Family Video in my town up until like 5 years ago. And, it was kind of interesting. The Family Video, I don't know if you're familiar with those. I think they were mainly in the Midwest. It was basically like Midwest Blockbuster. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
I know the title, but yeah, it is kind of a bummer. It was like, it was not that long ago, literally in the last 6 months when I was driving back from Nevada area. I happened to pull over just to get something to eat along the way. I think it was a Subway or something like that. And I get out and I look across the street and I'm like, there's an operational video store still in service? And so I walked inside. I'm like, I gotta see what this is all about. And it's like they literally still just had, they're all DVDs. It's like somebody asked me, like, they got VHSs. I'm like, well, no, they didn't have VHSs. You know, Nevada's a little bit more futuristic than that, but but they still had all kinds of VHSs in there. And I talked, the lady was there. She's like, we've been running this place for 40 years or whatnot. Blah, 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 blah. You know, people still like to come in and get their DVDs and so on. And it's like probably realistically until Starlink came around, I bet you nobody in that area had any form of internet, because there's a lot of those towns in Nevada that are they literally are kind of like off the beaten path, like totally, you know. And but they had some cool novelty stuff in there. They had like a handmade Sega sign. They had this there's that Brad Pitt Ralph Bakshi movie called Cool World, and it's kind of like it's like the other Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Well, they had this clock that was up there that said Hollywood on it, and it had like the blonde Cool World chick in there and everything. I was like, dude, that thing is so awesome and novelty and whatnot. But I picked up a couple of things there, and it was pretty darn cool. So whenever you do find them, it's almost a very special thing because it's just.
Have you done a podcast on Cool World?
No, I never have, but that'd be a fun one to do. I haven't watched it in a long time, too.
It's been forever.
And I like Ralph Bakshi a lot, and of course, you know, we got like Brad Pitt. Of course. So we should do that. We should do that one of these days. That'd be kind of fun. As I said, I haven't probably seen it in 20 years. But yeah, so it's just cool to find those video stores, because the bummer thing is that they don't really exist anymore. I mean, once in a blue moon, you'll find kind of, I call them like a novelty shop, because that's kind of the best thing they are. You know, it's anything of like retro video games, VHSs, and all that.
It's almost like going into an antique store.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it is. It's literally an antique store for like, you know, the last like 50 years.
I kind of feel like eventually it's going to be the same thing for comic shops.
Yeah, you know, I think so too. They're really holding on by a thread, I feel. You know, it's just kind of the way it is. Even books, I mean, bookstores barely even exist. So, like, you know, there's a few and far between. But yeah, It makes it sound like a downer thing. It's like, oh man, remember all this great stuff? Yeah, yeah. Life used to be really cool. Yeah, yeah. Well, no, you know. But you know what? The upside is that we can go back and just about watch anything we possibly want to, because one, some very good person doing their, the Lord's work, being a great Samaritan on YouTube, has uploaded the Mortal Kombat the animated video so that everybody can see it in all its glory and be just like you're there in 1995 to get pumped and ready for the Mortal Kombat live action movie, because that's really all this thing is. It's a giant like teaser
promotion. It's a promotion.
It's a promo video that probably cost like $15 or $20 back in 1995 money, so that'd be like $60 today for a 40-minute movie.
Holy smokes, man. I want to say I'm somewhere between speechless and just jam-packed with things to say about this Mortal Kombat animation. The latest Warner Brother animations, they don't even hold a candle to this film. On
the podcast you kept saying each one we watched, the next one's better, the next one's better
and better and better.
Well, it's like we went back in time and got even better.
Holy smokes. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't read up about the film. I didn't. The only thing I remembered was you telling me that it was actually came out before the original live action Mortal Kombat movie, and I didn't know what to think. And as soon as I turned it on, excuse me, geez. As soon as I turned it on, my wife and I were watching it. We watched like 30 minutes, and I looked over at her, and she's like,
"The hell are you watching?"
I'm like, I'm going to put on King of the Hill. She's like, okay.
Yeah, watch this in parts.
I'm like, I just don't want to watch this right now. It was at first when they show like some of the scenes before the movie actually starts, I thought it was Mortal Kombat 4 that I was watching. I thought I was watching scenes from Mortal Kombat 4. And I'm like, I don't think that's out yet. Like, as this is being made, because it kind of looked like I was thinking about the commercial for Mortal Kombat 4 when it came out, when they showed Goro come out, and those that 3D animation that looked like it was done on like Windows 95.
It probably was
in this movie. I thought it was NK4, and as we're watching, as the movie starts, I'm like, wait, is there like 3D stuff going on here? And then it goes into that kind of 2D. It kind of reminded me of the really old Lord of the Rings animated films from I think the 70s.
Well, there's technically three of them.
There's a ton.
There's the Ralph Bakshi one that's Lord of the Rings, and that's the same dude did Cool World. And then there's the ones from Rankin and Bass, and they did The Hobbit, and then they did Return of the King, and it's literally all about the same time period.
There's I don't know which ones these were. I just know that they did a interesting mixture of like animation, but then they also had like they implemented scenes of like actual like people, like actors, and it's in the movie as well. Like,
I think I think that's
like
the Ralph Bakshi.
It's like overlaid on one another.
I think that's the Lord of the Rings one, the Ralph Bakshi one, because Ralph Bakshi liked all like the kind of like the weird special effects. He was like the guy who would do like the what they call he'd use a lot of the rotoscoping. He's not the guy who invented it, of course. That was from like the Fleischer brothers, but like he used a lot of it like in Fire and Ice. I think a lot in actually Lord of the Rings, Cool World. So he had a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
I see. But yeah, it kind of reminded me of that, and kind of reminded me of Super Friends, the old DC animation show. I don't know if you've ever seen Super Friends.
Yep, I have.
Kind of reminded me of that. I thought it was overall hilarious. I mean, the way that Liu Kang is kind of animated, the way that he's animated versus the way that he talks is so hilarious. I don't know what else to say.
Well, there was a part I was laughing so hard where like because Liu Kang was talking
Raiden
about
looks like Space Ghost.
Yeah, he totally does.
Sorry.
Boy, does Raiden chew scenery in this thing. God, he talks forever. Like, if you thought Raiden talked a lot in other things, he, like, out of 40 minutes of animation, he talks for like 30. You know, but there's a part where like Liu Kang, he gets all like, it's just the way that they animate it, and he gets all sad about like something in the temple or whatnot. He's like, oh, but the old men betrayed me, and he's like, oh. He like bends over, shoulders hunched, everybody's standing around him, you know. And it's just like, it's so strange. And there's just the simple thing, if anybody had no idea what this story was about, it's just, think of like the most proto like storyboard trailer of getting you ready for Mortal Kombat the movie. It just kind of has our three core main heroes, Sonya, Liu Kang, and Johnny Cage. You know, and it kind of just gives more of an introduction to kind of who they are, throws in a little bit of fights. They get to Shang Tsung's island, but this movie literally kind of ends where it's like, oh yeah, go check out the movie. Get those dollars ready, kids.
We were, as I was finishing earlier, about the same time you were finishing it, I'm like, there's not that much time left. And they're like, still at his island, but have not gone inside the fortress yet. What, I don't know what's going on here. And all of a sudden, it just, that's it. They go in. The movie pretty much just takes place on a boat and at the base of an island. And the boat, of course, it's just like every other Mortal Kombat story that we've seen so far that takes place at the beginning. So, Mortal Kombat 9. Mortal Kombat 1, kinda, and
Scorpion's Revenge,
and then Scorpion's Revenge, and pretty much the Scorpion's
and then
Revenge.
any of the movies still.
Yeah, and then Mortal Kombat, and then the new it's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like basically all the introductory stories just again, but in this case, I guess for the first time. But yeah, it starts out on that boat. It goes back and forth between those, the 3D and the 2D. Sonya Blade has got to be it's got to be the most masculine Sonya Blade I've ever seen.
They make her jacked,
super jacked, man. Like she'd be on the news right now if she was trying to compete in sports. They'd be
testing her for something.
But that was pretty hilarious. The animation also kind of reminded me of it made me really want to watch Heavy Metal.
Heavy Metal 2000?
No, the original.
The original one, okay.
So like and mostly for some of the scenes of Sonya's face when she kind of like goes to either grunt or whatever she, does these like those shots of animation where they show her like, I don't know, she's about to punch someone or yell, but she looks like she's like got a hernia. And it just made me think of a few scenes from Heavy Metal, like one of the I think early scenes in the film when this girl sees the big green orb and she's like, oh yeah, and then she dies. But that's a great movie.
I love that movie so much.
Heavy Metal 2000 was not bad, but I prefer the original.
I do too. I'm still pretty partial to the second one.
It's okay.
I have a good memory of it. When I was a kid, my uncle came up and whatnot, and it was like right when that movie came out, or when it came out on TV and stuff. He's like, "Oh man, you gotta check this movie out." It's like he like flips it on like HBO. He like cracks a beer open. He's like, "Dude, you're gonna love this one." I'm like probably like 10 years old or whatever.
The original or Heavy Metal 2000?
No, it was when Heavy Metal 2000 came out.
I actually I had no idea what that was. I had gotten this video game from a friend.
Oh, Falk 2? Heavy Metal Falk 2? It's spelled FAKK 2.
No. So
I thought it's really because I'm like that was a pretty cool game on PC. I have it.
I don't know what that is. No, it was Heavy Metal 2000 as a video game for PC, but I don't know why I got it. It came with this Kiss Psycho Circus. I don't know if you heard of that.
I literally have I bought it like a year ago. I bought a big box special edition of it.
Yeah, I used to have it on PC. And at that time, I had no idea how to play first-person shooters. I had no idea what I was doing. It wasn't fun because I didn't I was like, I don't know. I hadn't even played Halo yet at this point, and that's what really got me into FPSs. But yeah, I put it on my computer. I'm like, dude, I don't know what the hell to do with this. And then in that case, I don't know if the person that gave it to me just threw it in there or it came with it, but it's Heavy Metal 2000. And I'm like, well, this looks interesting. And well, why did it look interesting to me? Because all there was on the disc was a picture of a scantily clad woman with a big giant gun on it.
You don't need any more. It's like it's sold. Like, let's see where this goes.
But I never played it because I dropped it and I dropped it so hard that the disc chipped like a chunk that big out of it. And I'm like,
yep, there goes that.
But yeah, no, the animation, yeah, I guess like I said, it kind of reminded me of this Mortal Kombat, the journey begins of just some of those older classics, which is so refreshing. I was talking to my wife about it, saying like, if I was like 9 years old, I would be so into this right now. I don't care. I wouldn't care what's going on. I'd just be like, oh, like, who's throwing that punch? Why? Who's that? Scorpion and Sub-Zero come out with these silly costumes.
Scorpion's doing, he's like peeking around the corner and everything. I love that part. It's just like, he just looks like he's just perving almost.
So silly. And Sub-Zero, like growling when Sonya Blade goes up to him. I'm like,
but okay. I will say, you mentioned the kid thing though, because that's the thing is like, because I remember seeing this. Somebody had it in like '96. I got my version like in like 2000, in like the very early 2000s when they were selling off the videos. But I remember seeing it early on. Somebody had it at their house, and it was just like at that time period, you did not judge any of that stuff. You were just blown away. It's like, whoa, it's an animated Mortal Kombat thing. Like it didn't matter. Like in that time period, it sounds weird. It's like it's really easy to look at the CG scenes that are in here and go, oh, those are a little bit hokey, but realistically, for the time, it's like that.
I'm sure there wasn't much better.
I mean, I watched The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, and when they went into Quest World, they had the CG stuff. I watched that show Reboot as well as a kid.
Oh, I love Reboot.
Yeah, that was a fun show. And then I even watched the Donkey Kong one too, and
there was Beast Wars.
So I was kind of like that animation is not really that radically. It's probably not as good as those ones, I will say, but it's not that far off.
That first 3D battle that you see, I think it was Kung Lao versus Shang Tsung. One of them, I think it was Shang Tsung. He's doing his moves and stuff, and all of a sudden his arms like under his face, like the socket of his arms like over here
just shifts and everything. Like, well, I will say this movie, both in the 2D animation and the 3D animation, it definitely has that feeling like these are some people's first jobs.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like there's just some like weird flow and movement to it. It's almost like experimental is the best way to kind of say it, but I'm pretty sure it's something else that's just like it's almost like they hired a bunch of like college kids just right out of like, hey, animation school, you want to try something here? Hey, hell, or dropouts even. I'm not too sure. Like they got halfway through, they got an idea at least.
The I don't remember what was said now, to be honest, but I remember as Raiden's narrating stuff about like why Mortal Kombat exists and this and that, and then when Shang Tsung's talking later on, some of that stuff was not like in like canonical. Some of the names were funny, and I'm like, man, the people that made this, did they even play Mortal Kombat? Like Baraka. I don't even know if there was a Baraka.
No, there's a bunch of Tarkatans that were kind of like generic Barakas.
I think they gave him a different name, and then they just looked funny as heck. And
it kept showing that same animation of like the three of them running towards the screen. Like I felt like I saw that like 10 times.
It's got to be the most uncomfortable running, like their arms way up like this and they're hunched over
and they're just shuffling. There's like three of them coming in. I just felt like it was like they cut back to that.
Oh yeah. They appreciate they used the scene with Johnny Cage fighting him the same frames like 3 times.
Yep. I felt like they really reused a lot of animation in like the short movie and so on like that. Probably voice wise, I was thinking about it because some of those ones are like instead of like the Lin Kuei, they call it like the Lin Q or something like that.
The Lin Q.
But I'm pretty sure the guy who's reading this, he's just literally reading it off the paper and
probably didn't even know what to say.
John Tobias and Ed Boon are probably not there when they're making this thing. This thing was probably one of those ones that was just done like third party. So there's nobody there to correct him on any of this stuff. So I'm giving him a pass on that because he probably is just legitimately reading a script and going, sure, what Mortal Kombat, it's a job. Well, okay.
I want to see, oops, wrong thing. The voice actor for, what do you
Shang
call
Tsung?
it? Shang Tsung. I think he's a famous voice actor.
Yeah, it's the dude who plays
really
Pete
familiar.
from Goof Troop. I was actually trying to look at. I was trying to look at. Of course, this movie doesn't appear on Wikipedia. It's got like a brief paragraph section in Mortal Kombat the movie I found, but not there. But yeah, that's. I want to say that's the dude because it's also the same guy who he's in a crap ton of stuff. But he's in Tailspin. He plays like the main Fox villain and everything like that.
Yes, that's who
Jim Cummings. There we go. I was drawing a blank on his name.
I kept thinking. I don't know if you remember an old cartoon called SWAT Cats.
Yes, I literally just watched through that whole thing like last year. I bought the DVD set, and yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go through this whole the entire run.
I don't know why, but I felt like he was in SWAT Cats for like a villain. I know this dude plays villains like a lot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he might not be in SWAT Cats, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I was just super pleased to see that this guy was in the show. He's got such an iconic voice that you love to hear when it's some sinister butthole.
Yeah. I was actually kind of surprised that he actually was in this too. I was like, oh, comparatively to all the other budget restraints in this movie, like they didn't cheapen out on that part at least. They at least got him in there. And I wish there was credits to this movie because I'm kind of curious to see who the rest of the people were in it.
Yeah. Oh wait. Oh yeah, never mind. I found a Mortal Kombat: The Journey Begins on the Wikipedia. It's under his Jim Cummings' the filmography, but like you said, it just takes you to the Mortal Kombat live action.
Yeah, that's kind of all it is there. I guess on IMDb they got.
Oh, he also played Sub-Zero.
Yeah, so he made those weird sounds.
Oh boy, but so we're watching it, and I'm like, they're fighting Tarkatan after Tarkatan after Tarkatan. Even before that, when they show Goro, that was. Once again, like so hilarious, like his just showing it. He's like a bullfighter, he's like a matador, pulling his cape out, bringing it back, and then he just goes away. And I don't know, it was just so funny. I did like the Goro scene in that movie, like where they show his backstory, even though I'm sure it's not canon.
Yeah, no, that was kind of cool because that was different. That was like the one thing that kind of added to it, where Goro had to fight his brother or whatnot, and like his dad was like, I guess Goro's brother brought his dad this like giant egg thing, and then like they had to fight each other to the death, and then Goro technically loses or whatnot, but then his brother like, I can't remember, he like falls off the cliff, and then Goro like takes it. He's like, hey, give me the egg, and then I'll pull you back up.
It was a gem. It was a giant gem.
It was a gem egg thing. Yeah, let me rephrase this. It is like he brought a giant bird egg. It was like some fucking ostrich egg.
It's Chris Farley from Almost Heroes.
Oh yeah. But then he had a sack. That's a great movie. Isn't that the last Chris Farley movie too?
It might be. Him and the dude from Friends. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I know you're talking about, but yeah.
Anyway,
but yeah, that Goro backstory where it shows that he had to sacrifice his own brother, and his father was very happy. He became the favorite son.
But yeah, that I don't think I've seen Goro having a brother and dad anywhere else in Mortal Kombat. So that was something you're probably not going to see again. Again, it's one of those things that I want to know, like who wrote this, and because I kind of feel like John Tobias and I don't think Ed Boon really wrote this.
No. I'm definitely sure it was an adaptation. It was like one of those ones, somebody probably looked at the script for the movie and it was just probably some side company And I don't even, well, it still says the New Line Cinema, so it's probably some random ass like New Line Cinema's like, you know what, we could start up an art department for animation, and that's probably like one of the only things they ever made.
I had a good laugh out of it, that's for sure. And I still can't get over the costumes for Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and how like all I could think of, like what came to mind was Dastardly. You know, like the villains you see in like what's it called, that old Wacky Race cartoon or whatever the heck it's called with you know what I'm talking about? Yes. And
exactly what you're talking about.
And just like, you know, it's some guy who's gonna be in the corner, you know, like after doing something real silly and stupid that's not gonna amount to anything. And their costumes, man. I mean, I don't know what they make me think of. Certainly not Sub-Zero and Scorpion, but like it looks like they got almost like half Batman ears or something.
Yeah, they did have that,
but I don't know, man. I kind of at a loss for words on this one. It was so minimal. Oh, I mean, at the end there, like I said, they're fighting all these Tarkatans, and you think they're done, and then they just keep coming back and coming back and coming back. Finally, Raiden shows up, and you know, you're thinking, okay, so he's gonna just like smoke all these guys, I guess, and he just yells for Shang Tsung, and who comes out. The running in this movie is freaking hilarious, and this actually happened when they first arrived to the island, and Shang Tsung appears through like this little doorway in the mountain, its fortress, I guess. Like when they show, he's like running super fast to like the opening of this doorway, and then just stops and starts talking. It's so freaking funny looking.
All the characters running and movement, it's weird. You know,
it's hilarious. But yeah, Raiden shows up and calls out Shang Tsung, who comes out and he's like, "You've broken the rules again," you know, and he just doesn't even care. Like they've written him to just be like totally defiant and not giving a crap. He's like, "Rules are made to be broken, especially those made by the gods," you know, like, and all this crap. And then he's like, "And now you'll have to do," like, once again, he's like, "Now you're gonna get ready for Mortal Kombat," or whatever he says, and they just keep fighting, and then it ends.
Yeah, it says like to be continued in the motion picture.
And it was kind of hilarious too, because right before they do that, where Shang Tsung gives his little spiel about be ready for Mortal Kombat, they're surrounded by Tarkatans. And then he says it again, and then they pan away again, and then all of a sudden the Tarkatans are running back to him, to Johnny Cage and Liu Kang, and just those little inconsistencies. It's always kind of funny, you know. The pace of this though, kind of reminded me of like the old. I say old, even though it is old at this point. The '90s Spider-Man show and X-Men. Like, that's constantly like, there's never a break. Even when they show like Peter Parker like walking down the street from school or on a date, like that guy never catches a break in that show. It always goes from like one fight to another, and it's like he's always trying to get away and he can't.
Yeah, no, well, that's always what makes TV shows kind of roll faster, I always feel, because it's just like it's weird. Like in 20 minutes of animation, it's amazing like how much more that can cover that like a live action would never be able to do.
It'd be funny if like our life was like Peter Parker's life in that 90s animation cartoon. We're sitting here doing something at home, and all of a sudden, you know, your neighbor busts through your walls, and you're you know, like having to take care of that. And then once you finish, you start going, I don't know, you go to work the next day, and freaking somebody runs you over, and you know, and I don't know, like everything's a disaster.
Yeah,
like
just constant action, constant, like, you know, you have to be like in constant danger.
I don't know.
That'd be pretty funny. But yeah, no, that's kind of how that is sort of true, because they're just going along, just fighting for, you know, no apparent reason. More and more Tarkatans come, you know, they just go cut back the same animation that you saw, like, you know, 30 seconds ago.
Man, you know, I'd almost want to say, Warner Brothers, you should do something about this, but they already did. It's the Scorpion's Revenge. and then kind of the Battle of the Realms, but that's like the second kind of act of all that, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of like the continuation of it.
But I really wish they'd do something about. I really wish they would have pursued that Katana movie.
Yeah, I know we talked about that before, and hopefully that will finally. Hopefully Warner Bros. Will find their way and whatnot, because that sounds badass. Just with all the Katana and all her femme fatale type characters.
Yeah, I did see the Injustice. One of them, I think it's Injustice 2, is on Game Pass, so I think I'm going to start playing that. And then I think almost all the Arkhams are on there too.
Those ones are super good. Really, anything Warner Brothers has always done fantastic games. The Batman ones are good. The Lord of the Rings ones are good. Of course, Mortal Kombat.
I just got done, almost done, playing that Jedi series. There's only 2 games right now. The Jedi Fallen Order. I finished that and I started playing the Jedi Survivor. That game is full of bugs, And I'm a big Star Wars fan, which is why I'm playing those games. But they're fun, but they're extremely repetitive to a fault. With a lot of the it's a platformer, which I enjoy. But it's just constant jump, grab, swing, climb, I'm like, okay, man, like I've done this for hours. I just want to finish the story. And now I'm at a part right now that every time I turn the game on and I go continue, it crashes, goes back to my Xbox screen.
Oh, nice. That's lovely.
So I'm if I'm going to try to load, see where that takes me, probably way earlier in the story.
And try streaming it on Game Pass first. See if that works.
It's play with EA. Like it's one of those. It's not exactly on Game Pass, but it's free because you could play with like EA Now or EA whatever.
Okay, that's a bummer.
And so yeah, it's kind of lame. But the if I can't load back into my story without having to play half the game again, I'm just giving up and I'm just gonna watch the end on YouTube.
Sometimes that's it, I played that first one of it and I beat that game, and then I started up that second one, and then I just kind of, I don't know, that Soul style of gameplay, like I kind of put up with it on the first one just because I kind of liked the game, at least. I like the story and the characters and the Star Warsness of it. And that's by the time that second one kind of came, I'm like, I just don't like this gameplay. It's just not that much. I don't know. It's just it's kind of like I hate to say
extremely repetitive, man.
It's just repetitive, and I feel like to me it feels kind of like a half-ass action game comparatively. I know everybody will tell you different. That really likes the Soul stuff, but yeah, and I just don't like that one thing too. Where like, oh, you saved? Well, guess what? All the enemies came back. You're like, well,
yeah.
Okay, that's
one of the I think a lot of people, I did it myself, compare these Jedi games with the Force Unleashed.
The Force Unleashed is amazing.
I thought that game was fantastic, and I actually enjoy the Force Unleashed and its story much better than the Jedi Fallen Order and the Cal Kestis games.
Yeah, 100%, because that's actually the last LucasArts game too, so that makes more sense. Where these other ones are kind of like, in a sense, they're like, I hate to sort of say it, they're like fan fiction Star Wars games nowadays. They're not real Star Wars. They're not George Lucas. They're not like he made Force Unleashed, but you know what I mean. He was still part of the, the team at that point. But yeah, no, as I said, I still wouldn't mind maybe trying to give that second one another go. But as I said, that gameplay style, if I see anything that has that like Soul style, I'm like, nah. It was like there was a Stellar Blade that was not a sequel. It was on PS5, but it was like an exclusive, and I was like, this looks kind of cool. I thought it was gonna be like Ninja Gaiden. I played like an hour of it. I was like, nope, it's just a cheap Korean knockoff of Souls. Like, I don't need to play this. Like, yeah.
I would just watch it on YouTube if you were interested. I mean, like, watch all the cutscenes, call it good.
Yeah, and I hate to sort of say that. I don't think the storyline was interesting enough for me. I thought could have been, but it wasn't a Mortal Kombat thing. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the and then if I can't finish that, I'm gonna try because I'm already invested in it. But if I can't finish it, then just whatever. And then the next few games I'm going to be playing are probably going to be Blood Rain, And
I've been wanting to play through Blood Rain again. I literally bought it twice in like the last like 5 years. Just assuming
it was
I was gonna get
on Game Pass the other day. So, or not Game Pass, but the Xbox store. So it was like $4. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try that one because I always want to play it and I never did. And then The Witcher 3.
Oh yeah, I've had that sitting there forever, and I never had. Well, I didn't really buy it for myself, but everybody's always told me how great it was, but never got around to it. I have Witcher 1 and 2 as well, so
yeah,
no excuse.
I don't have those, but one of my buddies was like, just watch them on YouTube and then start playing 3. I'm like, all right. But
yeah, you could do that. Well, one that I did want to say about this Mortal Kombat though that I actually thought was kind of cool is it doesn't seem like much, maybe nowadays, but it still actually is kind of an interesting thing. Is like the last like 15 minutes of the videotape is kind of like some behind the scenes of like, the live action movie. And the cool thing is because I remember like on the DVDs and all that stuff, they never had special features or anything like that. I was like, oh, that's always kind of a bummer. And then when I totally forgot that was on the end of this tape. And it was like, oh, yeah, they have that on here. I'm like, that's really cool. And I was actually kind of digging the special features and just some of the stuff they have on there. It's nothing like groundbreaking or anything, but you still get to, see some of the people there. And I love how they have that. There's like that producer guy who just looks about as stereotypical 1995 LA producers you can get. And he does the thing where he's like, here's the thing about Hong Kong movies, let's be honest. They're not made very well. They don't got good lighting. They don't got all the great Americanness. Yeah, they got good kung fu. I'll give them that. But, beyond that, they kind of suck. That's why we're coming in to show them how it's done. I was like, did you really just say that? Like,
yeah.
You clearly have probably never seen a Hong Kong movie. That's all I got to say. Like, have you never seen a Jackie Chan movie? Never seen a Shaw's Brothers movie? Never seen a, Bruce Lee one? Yeah, I felt like that was like, I was like, wow, that guy was really talking some smack.
Well, I'm sure he went real far in the film industry.
Yeah, after his racist
Holy
Chinese
crap,
comment.
Yeah. What are they good for?
Saying they got bad movies. Yeah, they don't know how to act. They don't know how to dance. They don't know how to sing. Yeah, they can throw a couple punches. Yeah. John Wayne could throw a punch. I mean, just saying.
All they do is run the nail salons, put a bowl on your head, cut around the rim, make a few movies in the dark. What else are you gonna do? Yeah. I'm sure that guy. Yeah, I'm sure he's a millionaire now. Yeah, the producer of Mortal Kombat. The movie. And then of course you got a young Paul Anderson on there. Talking about his British ways about like how he, I want to make movies for young people, the youth. Oh, I love too the end of that animation before I went into talking with like the directors and producers and stuff. It's going over like the stats and stuff on the characters. Like it was really necessary for that Scorpion's 230 pounds or whatever they said he was.
Dude, it said Raiden was 350.
I'm like, that's a heavy god.
Yeah, I thought I was like, how is Raiden so massive?
Yeah, that was interesting. Like I said, I think the best way to put that Mortal Kombat movie is interesting. And again, I mean, it's kind of hard to call it a movie. It's really just a long-winded promotion.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be something in a special features, like on a DVD for the original Mortal Kombat film.
I read something just in that little miniature Wikipedia article that said that apparently this video appears on the Blu-ray version of Mortal Kombat, which technically I actually have, but I don't think I've ever scoured the special features. I'm very curious to see if that actually is on there, because the back doesn't say anything about special features, so I don't know if it's just a certain special one or what, but that is kind of cool that they actually put that back on there, because I think it's one of those ones, if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, it's just cool to see. I mean?
For sure.
It's just like a piece of history.
It's like we were talking about, like way back when it came out. I'm sure it wasn't mind blowing, but at the same time, it was probably like, wow, they can do this. This is interesting. It's kind of like a benchmark.
Yeah.
And then of course, for any kid that probably shouldn't have even known what Mortal Kombat was, but at the same time, like it's one of those like, oh hell yes, dude, this is awesome. Like When I was young, I don't know if you know what the game Robo Pit is.
Oh, I know what that one is.
So I think there was a game called Robotech.
Okay.
But Robo Pit is a terrible game. It's bad, but I thought it was amazing. Like, and I thought it was genuinely fun when it came out, and it came out for PS1. The graphics in that game look just like the graphics in this Mortal Kombat promotion film. Like super, like the mountain, is just very geometric. There's no real texture. It's just
straight polygon
colors, Yeah, that's the way this game RoboPit was. And the way the game went was that you built robots and then you fought them. Excuse me. And you'd choose a body for your robot, you'd choose a head, and then you choose a certain kind of feet. You could have a giant foot with a spring, you could have like wheels, you could have like a tank treads.
Tank tread, yeah.
And then like your arms could be like you could either be like a boxer and you'd have these little like round thing, almost like Powerpuff Girl hands. You just
sock and bop 'em robot type stuff.
Exactly, yes. Or you'd have like a laser gun or a rocket or whatever, and you just fought this other robot, that whoever you'd be fighting, until you either blew them up or knocked them off the edge of the big giant block. And it is a terrible game. But at the time, I was like 7. I was like, dude, this game rocks.
Yeah,
and I'm sure if I saw this Mortal Kombat thing, I'd be like, oh yeah. Like it's one of those things too. I bet like you would probably wait to see, like, I can imagine seeing that on TV, but like only catching like the last 10 minutes. And then you just think about that forever until you see that it's on TV again, like a year from then, and you're like, oh yes, and of course your mom's like, oh, it's time for dinner, like.
Yeah. Well, it's like that thing too that people kind of forget too, is that there used to be a time period where just stuff like this was just so few and far between of things that you really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Let's say it was ones like nowadays, it's like, you go in like the toy store and it's like, oh, there's all kinds of stuff. It's like, where was this when I was a kid? And so on like that. You had to scour for days to find anything and everything. So like whatever was like video game oriented, it's almost like you treasured that, even if it wasn't really the greatest. Like, cause even like there's some of those animes too that I really liked from like the 90s, like the Fatal Fury movies and so on like that. They're honestly not the greatest ones. But like at the time period, it was just so cool because it's like, oh, dude, it's Fatal Fury, the movie, and so on. Kind of in a similar vein to Street Fighter 2, but not nearly as good as Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. And even some of like the Darkstalkers ones and so on like that. And yeah, it's like they're those kind of things. Like overall, like if you kind of just compare them for a story and whatnot, you're like, yeah, they're probably not that exciting or anything like that. But at the time period, it's just the fact that, hey, here's these characters from games and stuff you like. Cool, there's actually a movie or a show or something like that. Like just all that small stuff. And I feel like that's kind of what the Mortal Kombat thing was. And what was... Go ahead. No, you go.
So you just you were talking about the Street Fighter. You reminded me of, it's not animated, of course, but you reminded me of the old Street Fighter movie with Rob Van Dam.
Oh, and, I love that movie.
we watched that like
not Rob Van Dam, Jean-Claude Van Damme. That'd be awesome. I would love to see the Rob Van Dam would probably almost be even a better choice. Let's just say it. Let's be honest.
Oh my gosh,
Rob Van Dam.
That'd be hilarious. But no, Jean-Claude Van Damme. My wife had me watch that a few months ago because she'd seen it. I never really saw it, and it was just freaking hilarious. I love that scene where Jean-Claude Van Damme he's like on the news and he's like calling out M. Bison, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm coming for you." Like, and I'm like, "What the hell's the point?"
I'm gonna get that bison.
Yeah, bicep. And
it's just funny because it's like, who thought that Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, let's be honest, everybody knows he's the least American person.
Yes, correct. Like I would have. What's his name? Dolph Lundgren's not he's an immigrant too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Swedish.
But he'd probably look a little bit more like.
You definitely look like him for sure. I'll say is Jean-Claude Van Damme's look is guiled. I don't think it's too bad. I mean, I just like it for what it is. But like, and I love Jean-Claude Van Damme. I'm not saying anything against there. It's just I felt like it's like you got the most American character here, and you have a guy who's clearly has the thickest accent.
I know. Yeah, we were trying to watch. We're trying to blow through like a bunch of different action films that were from like the famous stars. You know, Van Damme, minus the Rob. What's his name? Dolph Lundgren, Schwarzenegger, of course, Stallone,
Chuck Norris,
what's his name? Poor guy.
Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes too. Yeah, you made me think of the one with him and Stallone.
Demolition Man.
Yes, Demolition Man. Yeah,
great movie.
I was thinking Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah, Bruce Willis,
and a few others.
Steven Seagal.
Oh my gosh, I've been reading. I don't know why, but I've been reading so much about Steven Seagal lately, just about some of his funny ass antics in his personal history. Chuck Norris, I guess, thought he was an idiot. I think it's because of his martial arts, and he was just saying like, yes. And gosh, you probably know this, but Steven Seagal defected to Russia. Like 15, 20 years ago, something like that. I'm like, what the hell? But that guy's pretty freaking hilarious. I don't know if you ever used to watch Mad TV.
I do remember.
I love Mad TV. I thought it was so much funnier than like Saturday Night Live. I don't know why I always compared the two, but
they're similar style shows.
Yeah, there was a guy who was on there who always portrayed Steven Seagal, and like he'd go into like a diner or something, and he's just like he's eating his food, whatever, and all of a sudden somebody like mildly hassles the waitress for like extra ketchup or coffee or something, and he's like, "Hey, come over here," like, and he'll like go over to him and be like explain like you got to treat these people nice and whatever, and then he just starts beating up everyone in the restaurant, and it's so freaking funny. But yeah,
it's funny because Steven Seagal, like his run's really not that long, of just like it's like maybe like 87, if that even 88 to like 95, but like in that like short 7-year run though, he does have some really banger movies.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like Under Siege 1 and 2, you know, Out to Kill, like Exit Wounds. There's like there is a few of those ones that are just like really, really good. Like it's like one of those ones like I kind of get it, like for that, you know. And then he literally like pretty much by about like 96 or 7, it's like that's when it kind of like a lot of those guys like it just kind of goes downhill. But
can't forget Machete.
Oh yeah, he's great in that. I love him as a villain.
I wish they would have done a third movie of that.
I do too, because that was like the other Expendables in a sense, is how I felt like those movies were.
It's pretty much dead in the water, I guess. But
yeah, that's something about. I think Robert gets kind of bored with stuff, and then like he forgets to come back to it, and then when he finally does, it's like way too late, you know. And granted, he does have like way too many things on his plate, you know. But
what I think should happen is I think Warner Brothers should make a promotion for the new Mortal Kombat, just like they did with the original Mortal Kombat movie.
And I think thing.
I think they should make it just as good. And I think they should
make it cut off halfway through too.
Use the same budget.
They could increase it for inflation. It's okay.
Yeah. But I don't know.
You know what they need to bring back too is the Mortal Kombat the live tour, because they have a little preview at the beginning of that VHS or whatnot where they have the Mortal Kombat live show.
Yeah.
I've watched some of those clips before on YouTube. You know, there's just some like home videos and some TV stuff and whatnot. And I would have loved to see that Mortal Kombat live show. Yeah, it would have been so badass. You know, it's funny because they used to have all these live shows like all the time. I guess as a kid, like that was probably something that like I would never have gone. My parents probably would have never paid to see any of that kind of stuff. You know, because obviously they would have happened in like Sacramento if I had to guess. I mean, one of the Mortal Kombat live show like interviews they had on TV, it was down in Los Angeles, so obviously, you know, they were touring around. And it's funny because the guys all get on stage. It's like, you know, we just want to teach kids all about self-discipline and not doing drugs and how to stay strong and stay fit. It's just this silly stuff, but like kind of cool at the same time.
It is kind of hilarious. It's once again like cool idea, good intentions, but it's also again coming from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that's the none of those
See how I
creators.
decapitated him, kids? See how I did that?
Yeah,
you
so you gotta do it with the right, strength. You gotta use the right force on there. You know what I mean? You want to make sure it's a clean blow. you don't want to be halfway alive. That's how they'll sue you.
You don't want a pizza when you should be French frying.
Yeah, I just think it's really the weirdest one to try to like work some like morals around and so on like that.
Yeah, it's whatever. But yeah, no, that I'm not gonna lie. I'm in between excited and nervous about this next Mortal Kombat film. I think we talked about it before, but that first reboot, I wasn't super happy with. I kind of, when I'm a fan of something, I usually take what I can get. But it's kind of like that last Dragon Ball series too. I thought that was stupid. But so yeah, like this Mortal Kombat film. It
was lukewarm. That was the best way. Like, there's some moments in there. I'll say there are some decent moments, but they're very few and far between. And there's some weird choices.
I liked the Kano scenes.
Yes, Kano is amazing.
I liked the scene with Jax fighting Sub-Zero, and I liked the scene with Scorpion.
Yeah, the last one, or the very beginning one. I mean.
Oh yeah, that was cool too. I meant the scene at the end where he actually comes back and fights Sub-Zero.
Yeah, no, that part's cool. Speaking of Kano, he wasn't in the animated movie. I was kind of surprised he wasn't in there.
That's right. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I was like, you know what? You know who wasn't in that movie was Kano.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's in the villain section, but well, yeah, he could have been on the boat too. And stirring up stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. I think he was already on the island, like in the in Mortal Kombat the movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, he didn't come on the boat because the boat was all Raiden's people. It's not like Raiden's like, by the way, I brought this Kano guy. Sony's just like, the hell, you brought him? Like, why? You guys can work together.
Yeah, that was the
I got faith in him.
Kano, or I'm sorry, it was Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, Sonya, and the Sneaky Ninjas.
Yeah,
the peaky ninjas.
Yeah, peaky ninjas. Yeah, just going around. The Lin Q.
That's a good band name, the Peaky Ninjas.
Yeah, But yeah, so I know I'm hopefully hoping that they could turn this ship around with the number 2 movie. I like to have faith that you can kind of fix that and hopefully just go full Mortal Kombat. Don't put the weird try to put the relatable Avatar character in there, the subs or Scorpions long grand.
Meanwhile, Scorpion was born like 40 years ago. That was another one. I'm like, what the hell is this?
He's not born in the 1600s. Yeah, and then I must remember the Melina one was just kind of had a half-ass costume where it's just she's got a slight purple on her. It's what kind of movie are you making here? I hate to start saying it, when Mortal Kombat 1 and even Annihilation, if you just look at them, it's everything looks good in those movies.
The costumes, the art, the
look of the characters,
that was all awesome.
They're all dialed in. Scripts. Yeah, that's kind of it. Especially with the Annihilation, you know what I mean? It's just it's just a low budget movie, but realistically, at least it looks like Mortal Kombat. It feels like Mortal Kombat.
Honestly, that's one of the things too. When I've looked through Reddit and other review comment sections on the Mortal Kombat movies, I see a lot of people dogging the Mortal Kombat, the first one, and I don't know why. Because it's low budget and everything. It's kind of cheesy here and there, and it's not exactly parallel with the Mortal Kombat games, but movies and games, they're never going to be. They're never going to be 100% the same. As movie to game. And that said, I thought Mortal Kombat was a great movie. I didn't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, well, that's a weird one too. The only thing I can think of is one, if you didn't grow up in that time period, that might be one of those ones where you might not get it. You know what I mean? Because there
Yeah.
might be some stuff that might be a little bit different and so on. And now you're just trying to compare it to, say, like the newer games and whatnot like that. And they're okay. There's that. And then sometimes there is that weird thing too, though, where like when movies, even though you think Mortal Kombat's actually old enough by this point that it would be fine, because this mostly always happens in like that 10 to 15 year period when something like has been out, and then like people go like, is it really that good? They do that kind of stupid shit. I remember like, and then a lot of times it happens like, I remember when Batman Begins came out, that's what they were doing to like Batman 89. They're like, Batman 89 really wasn't that good. Let's be honest, everybody. It's like, and then I remember, ironically, like only like 5 years ago, you heard that same thing be like, no, The Dark Knight, I know you think it's really good, but let me tell you why it's bad.
I like all the Batman films.
Yeah, I don't care.
Dislike any of them.
No, I try to look at them
like the ones that I prefer and the ones that I don't, but I like them all.
Yeah, that's literally how I am, and I try to take a look at different movies as in like, hey, it's a different interpretation. You know what I mean? And I know we just kind of like that new Mortal Kombat movie is just kind of off, and it is. I don't hate the movie or anything though, but like it just kind of feels off.
Choices were made, and I don't quite agree with them.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is at the end of the day. But it's like, even the Batman one's like, dude, I like it. Each one's got, it's like, even like Dark Knight Rises, like, I've talked about that multiple times on the podcast because that was literally the very first episode. And then like we followed it up a couple other times in here. And there's issues with it. At the end of the day, I still enjoy it. I try to take it for what it is,
It's a well done, like those Christopher Nolan movies are great movies in more ways than one. Are they great Batman movies? That's what's debatable. And everybody's got opinions. Everybody's got what they liked and disliked about them, this and that. But I mean, I can't fault the movie for being like just in itself a good movie, because it is. I mean, the dude knows how to make movies, but yeah. And like you were saying about the people that decide later on, like, oh, is this really that good or is this really that bad? Look at the freaking prequels for Star Wars and how much the Star Wars prequels were. They created like 2 decades of memes and jokes and criticism. Well, in this last year, within this last year, those prequels have been put back into theaters. I missed the first one. I missed the second one. I was kind of bummed about it because I really wanted to go back and see them. Well, my favorite Star Wars movie, which is Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
I made it to that one, and I was super happy I did. And when I saw how much movie that re-release made, that is what makes me feel like, I really don't think these movies are that bad, right? For all the crap that people gave them versus how much money the Disney sequels made, to parallel them, to say like, here's what this one made, here's what that one made. Well, this one here, which it made like an astronomical amount of money, and it's a 20-year-old movie that was re-released. Like the ticket sales are insane. Yeah. And it's like, I think largely people are just usually full of baloney, and they like to bandwagon.
I think that's more than anything else. It's the bandwagon thing. People don't have their own opinions. They like to join a group. The nice thing I will say about the prequels though is I feel like that's finally turning around. Where like because that was the thing, is like for the longest
people are
time
giving them the respect they deserve.
Yeah, because there was that period from like the pretty much about maybe post Revenge of the Sith, for like a good 15 years or so. It felt like people just like they put down the prequels, blah blah blah. They didn't like him and all that kind of stuff. And then I think as time went on, it's like you meet a lot of people like, no, you know what? Some of the prequel stuff's some of my favorite things. I mean, for me, my Return of the Jedi is my favorite, but Revenge of the Sith is my second favorite one.
I love the story. What I don't like about 2 and 3, it doesn't apply to 1 because, well, it's Hayden Christensen. I think it was like one of his first roles. I don't think he had much experience acting. And I think that really shows way later on, as of like 2 years ago or something. He returned for the Ahsoka TV show. And I really don't care for those Star Wars live action shows. I liked Mandalorian season 1 and 2. but the rest of them were just kind of boring to me.
That's how I felt.
Of course, there's a lot of people are going to crucify me for that, but it is what it is. I just didn't care for him that much. The Ahsoka show I thought was kind of boring and stupid in a lot of ways. But what I did like out of it were a few scenes here and there. Why? Because I'm a sucker for the clones. There's a few really cool Clone War scenes and scenes with Anakin, with Hayden, portrayed by Hayden Christensen. He reprised the role, and
That's cool.
He did like a fantastic job as Anakin Skywalker. Probably, I'm guessing he probably watched the Clone Wars series, like a few episodes at least, to see what the character's like in that show, and he like did it justice. Like such a better job playing Anakin Skywalker than he did years and years ago in the two movies. I just didn't like his acting in those movies. I thought it was really just subpar. Because I'm the authority on good acting, right? But no, that's what I really didn't like about those movies. I didn't care when they came out about the CGI. I know that's another huge complaint. I didn't care because I was a kid. What the hell do I care? It was a fun movie. I liked it. And even now as an adult, I still don't care. I enjoy the movies. What I think those prequels had, all three of them, that the sequels don't. The biggest thing is choreography. The lightsaber choreography is fantastic.
Well, that's really why I like those ones so much, is because as a kid watching, 4, 5, and 6, I always went like, man, imagine if there was more of this lightsaber stuff throughout these movies.
Absolutely.
That was always what I thought. And it's like, oh, that's literally what 1, 2, and 3 gave me. It gave me more lightsaber battles, and that's what I wanted to see.
And in the sequels, when it comes to the lightsaber battles, you see, I'll use my own camera here as an example. When you see the lightsaber battles, you see that much of someone, and then they'll do like a quick shot of their bodies before they even like make any moves, and they'll go back to the moves and they're like this close, like to the camera with their sabers. There's no real choreography. There's no real skills with that. And it's awesome that in those prequels, Obi-Wan, Count Dooku, Anakin, Mace, like everyone who had a lightsaber was actually trained by a person who was a swordsman on how to duel. And why would you not do that with the new, because I guess that's the best answer we'll get, because. But so the choreography is fantastic. The music scores were fantastic. The story still had a Star Wars feeling story. Like those vibes of I'm watching a Star Wars movie. There was nothing that was parallel to planet Earth. Like stupid jokes over and over and over. Yeah, the original films and the prequels did have their moments in the films where it's like, haha, that was a quick one-liner, whatever. At the same time, it wasn't over and over and over like a Marvel movie.
No,
And I'm not surprised with that. Why? Because Disney owns Marvel, Disney owns Star Wars.
Yep. Disney's going to put the slapstick in them.
But, I mean, if I want to watch Dumb and Dumber, I'm going to watch Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. I know what I'm getting into. It's in the title.
So, I mean, they were still just, they had a soul to them. And I feel like the Disney films just don't. And when you talk to somebody, like about what, like everything I said, they're just going to say like, oh, you're a boomer or some stupid crap like that. And it's like, no,
I hate when people come, it's like, whoa. Do you know what age range that is?
Exactly. But anyway, yeah.
I could sum it up real easily. It's the thing is because the Disney ones don't have George, so when you're missing the main ingredient, even if somebody else is writing it or something like that, like I'll say like a LucasArts video game or something like that, yeah, it might be somebody else working on it. But as long as George is just kind of hovering around somewhere in the offices, it feels like it still carries the magic. The second that George is like away and gone, it's like the Disney ones, just including Rogue One, because Rogue One, I love Rogue One. That's the one outlier of them all. Like it is.
I love Rogue One, and I really like Solo Story too.
Yeah, I like that one too. But like the Rogue One's the one that to me is like I feel like they're ridiculously good. And I don't hate 7, 8. If I just look at them for what they are, whatever. But they're missing the magic. They feel like literally that they're like expensive fan fiction. They don't feel real. They don't feel like it's a real story. It just feels like somebody's fan fiction. They had a budget for it.
There's a guy who makes videos and posts them to YouTube. You may have seen him. You've probably seen him. He's called The Critical Drinker. He roasts movies. I mean, not just Disney. He roasts all kinds of stuff. Lately, it's probably been mostly Disney. But he does a pretty good job of explaining why the episode 9 was just ridiculous. When I went to see episode 8, I fell asleep. I don't very often fall asleep in movie theaters. This one, I just I lost myself, and I woke up like within the last like 15 minutes of the film, and I just, the whole time I was watching the second sequel and the third one I saw in Brazil while I was waiting for my wife to get off of work, and in both of those films, I was not interested in the entire movie. I'm just like waiting, like to be like shocked or something, and I just, at every pivotal moment, I'm like, that was that, huh? Like, yeah. Okay. The Force Awakens, I don't think was a bad movie, but I think it was A New Hope rebranded.
It's just kind of a retread, yeah.
In fact, the second film was basically The Empire Strikes Back rebranded. Mm-hmm. It really was like that. When you parallel them, it's the same thing. But anyway, I'll get off the Star Wars bashing and whatnot. I think we talked about that enough. But yeah, man, I don't know. Back to Mortal Kombat being freaking awesome all the time.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat being awesome. Mortal Kombat's pretty much like one of those franchises that never lets me down. You know, even like the worst case, that last movie, I'm still just lukewarm with it. I didn't say it's like I don't dislike it. It's at least got some moments.
It's like a county fair corn dog, man. Yeah. Like, you're still gonna buy one.
Exactly. I mean, I'm still gonna go see the sequel. So I mean, just saying. You know. Yeah. Hopefully, yeah, the Mortal Kombat will turn that around and we'll be all good again. And you know, we enjoyed this good old Mortal Kombat, the animated video, The Journey Begins, because this literally is The Journey Begins, and so on like that. And you know, I feel for whatever budget and whatever game plan and what little notes that they had, they put something together. You know what? That's what happened.
All that matters.
You know, maybe they watched a couple teenagers play the arcade games. Maybe they flipped through the comic book. Maybe they didn't. I don't know.
Maybe they did a bunch of coke.
Yeah, probably. You know, it's just like we got to get rid of this coke before, like, you know. Yeah, I know the 80s have ended, but there's only so much 90s left. You know, we're halfway through.
That video did seem like a hallucination.
Yeah, it feels like a weird music video type thing. Need some like a Rob Zombie track over it or something that. But it's interesting. I feel like it's worth going out. If you really like Mortal Kombat, I think you should check this out. If you don't really like Mortal Kombat, you're just gonna probably be disappointed.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, the hell is this? You know what I mean? But if you really, really like something, I feel like you could kind of like the junk and the weird stuff in it. Like I'll say, since we talked about Star Wars for so much, it's like the Star Wars Christmas special.
Oh my God!
If you really, really, really like Star Wars, it's not good at all. Really, it's got some moments in it, but you can enjoy that if you really like Star Wars.
Holy smokes! I think that may be the only Star Wars thing that I've started and didn't finish.
I watched that whole thing for a podcast once, and
that's rough.
Yeah, it is and a rough watch. Yeah, it's got some weird Wookiee scenes. You know, this is the one thing that's really cool in that movie, though. The animated scene that has Boba Fett in it, like, yes. I like that.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
It's badass. It's all like 5 minutes, but like that's really cool. I would like to see more of that.
I think that's the first time that Boba Fett's introduced in the Star Wars history.
Yeah, it's the first showing of Boba Fett, but that animation's really cool. I think that part's neat. You know, but everything else in that thing is
Luke's face going like that.
Yeah. You know, and then Princess Leia singing at the end for why? 70s that matter.
Oh yeah.
But
good times.
But yeah, more Mortal Kombat fun in the future. Till then, you can always check out all the Old Man Orange podcasts on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Dave Candito.
And we'll see you some other time.